It's not a secret that I really enjoy anomalous diseases. I think everybody sort of knows that if they've watched any of my videos, they're like, yeah, he liked them disease things. So today, I thought we would watch some exploring series, Anomalous Diseases, which I'm really looking forward to. So, without further ado, I need to go and find a pen, and then let's get to it.
Anomalous Diseases. The human body is a miraculous thing, capable of incredible feats of strength, dexterity, endurance, and agility. Despite this, humans can be brought to debilitation and death by the smallest of organisms. Infectious agents are terrifying aspects of life, even in the real world, but in the SCP universe, they can be responsible for some truly horrific diseases. That's what we'll be looking at today. Anomalous diseases cataloged and contained by the SCP Foundation. Some of the most well-known diseases won't be mentioned here, as I've covered them before, such as SCP-610. And I also won't be looking at any sort of mental contagions that only alter someone's way of thinking.
Okay.
First, I'd be remiss if I didn't include SCP-008, a complex prion with 100% infectiousness, 100% lethality, transmissible through exposed mucous membranes and bodily fluids.
Oh, is that like the zombie one?
That, of course, would be bad enough, but it's the symptoms of the disease that are really bad. It begins with flu-like symptoms with a high fever leading into severe dementia, then a coma about 20 hours after symptoms appear, leading to death. A period of cellular necrosis breaks out, with surviving tissue assuming its original function and becoming highly resilient. Red blood cells greatly increase their oxygen storage capacity, resulting in slower blood flow throughout the body and increased muscle endurance and strength. The nervous and muscular systems are otherwise unaffected, but the subject's metabolism may decrease to extremely low levels, allowing a subject to survive afterwards for over 10 years without nutrition.
This sounds like a zombie.
Their high blood viscosity
kind of
results in negligible blood flow from injuries, and their motor controls, behavioral mechanisms, and cognitive abilities are severely degraded. This leaves a subject capable of only basic physical activities, such as walking, crawling, grabbing, and biting. They will move towards anything the subject associates with living humans, and will attempt to consume any live humans they come into contact with. Neutralization of the subject requires significant cranial trauma. Yeah, okay, so it's just a zombie virus.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a classic SCP that really combines the scientific nature of the SCP Foundation with the anomalous horror of the SCP universe. It's not incredibly original, but it's no surprise at all that the Foundation has some samples of it kept in a lab somewhere.
I mean, if you're gonna have a world where there are like diseases, right? Why not have a zombie virus, honestly, right? I think I've already encountered SCP-008 through the comment section. So I kind of knew it was like a virus, like a zombie thing. Yeah, honestly, it seemed kind of plain, I'm not gonna lie. But now we're talking 008. This is so ancient SCP history that it's a little bit like, you know, to be expected, I suppose.
Moving on to something a bit more original, though, with SCP-016. A pathogen uncovered during a mining operation when a miner injured himself while working in a deep coal seam.
Oh!
The pathogen was able to spread and infect the rest of the workers over the next few days,
This is the one
as
I
well
know.
as the CDC crisis team sent in to deal with the problem.
Is it the one that mutates you?
When the Foundation came in, they terminated everyone infected except for the original worker, and sealed the mine shaft. Symptoms of SCP-016 start by resembling the common cold, leading into a hemorrhagic fever 48 hours later as the infected begins to cough up aerosolized blood, which spreads the pathogen. After this, the subject starts to bleed profusely from every bodily orifice, and their blood pressure skyrockets, in some cases involuntarily vomiting blood to distances of over 5 meters. Should the subject actually manage to survive this stage, the pathogen will become dormant again, only to activate sometime in the next day to 2 years. Even more notable, if an infected subject undergoes a period of high stress, such as a life-threatening situation, the pathogen will instead begin rewriting the host's DNA and stimulate rapid cell division. This causes a host's body to rapidly mutate in a time span of 24 hours to 2 weeks, in a way that would help the host to survive the situation. Ironically, the rapid bodily changes often causes the host to die anyways. These transformations also alter the host's mentality, making them far more aggressive, possibly to hasten the spread of the virus. Testing with some D-class infected with the pathogen and placed in life-threatening situations showed that the pathogen might differ in their responses to the same situation. The containment cells of 2 D-class were slowly filled with water over a 24-hour period after they were infected.
Yeah. The terror illness. 016. We've already done a reaction on it. So, if you want to check that out, it should pop up right here, look like that, see if you find it. It was a pretty good one. It's a really quick one too. He's gonna explain it now, but it's very unique and it's actually really, really cool. Personally, I think it was more interesting than the flesh that hates, as an example. The only thing that probably isn't that great about it is that people that get the disease die that quickly.
One D-class's lungs mutated into gills, allowing it to survive for a further 2 weeks in the water. But they died after all the water was drained and they asphyxiated. The pathogen of the other D-class caused its host's muscles to rapidly grow and the bones of his knuckles to expand. The D-class attempted to escape by punching through the reinforced steel cell door, but failed to do so and drowned. The cell of a third D-class was also filled slowly with water, but this D-class had a background in chemical engineering. During the crisis, the pathogen caused the subject to grow an unusual organ on his chest, consisting of a chamber and 2 separate tubes. The organ took in water and swelled in size, and since it seemed that the organ was going to function as some sort of explosive, the D-class was terminated by gunshot. Another D-class was infected and told to concentrate on growing wings, with no stress applied, but nothing happened and the subject died of exsanguination. A 5th D-class was also told to concentrate on growing wings, but was placed in an acrylic box above a mine shaft, and was told the box would drop after a timer went off.
Dude, imagine doing that
The
to
pathogen
someone.
mutated the D-class's body, but instead of growing wings, he grew a tentacle-like organ on his wrist that extruded a silk-like substance, and used it to secure the box to the cable. The D-class died when the timer hit 0 and a bomb was detonated. Not quite as ostentatious, but still terrifying, is SCP-020, a fungal organism that somehow is invisible to direct observation, only visible through photographic or video surveillance. The fungi spread rapidly, and when rooted in someone's home, will begin to produce spores that affect the humans living in the home. Infected subjects will increase the heat and humidity of the home to make it more suitable for fungal growth, and they will also become more sociable, often inviting people into their home to spread the fungus. Eventually, the growth of the organism will reach a point where the health of humans inside of the home rapidly deteriorates, leading to death. The fungi, of course, still reside in the corpses, unseen to emergency responders and other healthcare officials, leading to further spread. SCP-020 was first discovered in a hospital by an undercover agent who noticed dramatic personality changes in the personnel. Further investigation revealed that a majority of the town was infected, leading the Foundation to incinerate the entire town.
Incinerate? Come on now!
Not every anomalous disease features an insidious, slow degradation towards death, of course. SCP-081 is a virus spread through intercourse, exposure to infected blood, and through rats, who act as passive carriers.
81?
There is a 1-week incubation phase before initial symptoms commence, starting only with the subject feeling slightly tired for a week. In the next week, subjects will begin to experience hot flashes and an increased appetite, followed by a period of extreme polyphagia. The infected will do anything in their power to obtain food, or anything that's edible, as their metabolism slows down significantly, leading to rapid weight gain. This continues until a subject possesses 55% body fat, at which point their urge to eat will stop, but their hot flashes will increase in frequency. Soon afterwards, their body will go through an extremely violent version of widespread cell lysis, as their body incinerates itself using fat as a fuel source, resulting in what is commonly called spontaneous human combustion. It's believed that SCP-081 has existed since the 10th century, but because of widespread poverty and malnutrition in many European countries at the time, most cases didn't proceed to the 4th stage.
That is a bit wild.
Conversely,
I'm not gonna lie.
due to the obesity epidemic in the US currently, it's theorized that a wide-scale breakout of the virus would be disastrous.
The anti-McDonald's virus, dude. Oh god, yeah, I guess the US is not gonna be too happy with that one, dude. Still think it's funny though. Spontaneous human combustion. Such a child, dude, I swear to god. I mean, imagine getting that shit though. Oh god. Hey, wear protection. You heard it here first. Probably not, but wear protection.
Mosquitoes are one of the most notorious vectors for spreading harmful diseases, from yellow fever to malaria. SCP-149 is a specific breed of mosquito that carries a strain of retrovirus which mutates human cells into fertilized mosquito eggs.
Oh my god.
The first set of cells that mutate resemble cysts,
stop!
concentrated in the lining of the esophagus and the sinuses.
Oh bro, no please.
Dissecting these cysts reveals them to be filled with mosquito larvae, and by the time a subject feels the effects of the virus, the first generation of these mosquitoes have already fully grown. The mosquitoes typically leave the host's body through the mouth and nostrils, but occasionally exit through the eye sockets.
Okay,
As
dude.
expected, infection by SCP-149 is invariably fatal.
Oh.
Finally, we have SCP-2559, which, although it doesn't only affect an individual's mind, it does spread through thoughts.
Oh.
Basically, if someone believes that they have been infected by SCP-2559, they will become infected. There is no other known way of spreading the virus. Within 5 hours of infection, 2559 can be found in the host's cerebrospinal fluid, and in their blood within 2 days. Symptoms of the virus vary wildly, but commonly include increased intracranial pressure, leading to tunnel vision, convulsions, mental disability, strokes, and death. Restriction of blood supply to various organs and tissues, leading to necrosis, gangrene, and strokes. Extreme negative reactions to water, food, sun, heat, cold, or various medications. And a number of pigmentation disorders, most commonly segmental vitiligo. So far, infection is proved to cause a 100% mortality rate, with continuous medical treatment only capable of extending life expectancy up to 5 years. Prior to 1995, there had been regular outbreaks every 3 to 4 years, although it is yet to be determined what caused these outbreaks.
Dude, so if I go and read that fucking file, dude, I'm gonna think I have it. I am the kind of person that never could have dealt with a disease like this, because I would be like, oh bro, I probably have it now. I probably have like mental AIDS, dude. Straight up, no joke. I will say, the fucking mosquito one, man, that can go fuck itself. Oh god. A mosquito that mutates your cells to eggs, dude. Eggs, dude. Oh, please, no, dude, fam. Oh, can you imagine, bro? Dude, oh, no. Oh, no. I will say one thing, though, that is a little bit unfortunate. Why is it that all these SCP is like 100% mortality rate? Like, I get it's like, oh, it's an SCP, it's supposed to be a little bit spooky, you know what I mean? But, like, come on now. Like, even Ebola, dude, had like a 50% survival rate, right? Like, it should be a little bit better survival rate, I think, personally at least, on some of these. It's a little bit like, oh, this one makes you blow up, this one makes mosquitoes come out of you, this one is like, mutates you, this one just makes you bleed out until you die, this one makes you to a zombie, and every single one will guaranteed kill you. And, like, come on now. Can't there be one disease with like a 95% mortality rate? You know what I mean? Like have some survivability in these bitches, man.
The first confirmed outbreak occurred in Ireland in 1928, resulting in the deaths of 43 civilians. Investigation agents determined the infection to be non-anomalous, until a similar outbreak occurred in Iceland in 1933. It's suspected that a case of mass hysteria in Australia in 1889 might actually be the first outbreak.
Oh.
During the outbreak in Iceland in 1933, 3 junior researchers were infected, leading to 12 more researchers becoming infected upon their return to a Foundation site. Within a few months, 20% of the site's staff had been found to be infected. A few months after this, the radio control room of the site began to broadcast an unauthorized message filled with spelling mistakes, in which the sender instructs personnel to repeat the phrase "mendacium non verum." 2 minutes later, security apprehended a senior researcher in the radio control room who had learned that the virus spreads through thought. He believed that he could save the lives of uninfected personnel by convincing them that they were memetically inoculated. The phrase "mendacium non verum" was revealed by the researcher to be just a placebo.
But did it work though?
He was right, and the memetic inoculation saved the lives of almost 200 researchers, resulting in his promotion to co-director of a Foundation site. We're told that years later,
Sigma
Foundation learned
grindset,
that
man.
placebo memetic inoculation does more harm than good, and the researcher is now classified as an SCP.
Wait,
Things continued as normal for
survived?
years after the original discovery, with contained regular outbreaks
Goddamn.
until 1995. On December 25th, 1995, every contained instance of 2559 infected died, the majority of them from major hydrocephalic strokes. The next day, an unscheduled outbreak occurs in Taiwan, with 153 civilian casualties and 30 survivors contained by the Foundation. In 2013, an infected junior researcher in a medically induced coma was found to have developed an unusual pattern of pigmentation on the back of his left hand. As a result of a stroke, he suffers from aphasia, which affects his ability to speak, but he is brought out of the coma to discuss the pigmentation. He reveals that the markings on his hand are identical to a diagram in a book of palmistry that he used to read every morning. The junior researcher suffered a fatal cardiac arrest shortly after, and 12 other contained instances were found to have unusual skin patterns matching the patterns of their hospital gowns.
What?
That same year, a breakout occurred in a town in Connecticut, which went unnoticed for almost a month due to unusually subtle initial symptoms. Most citizens believed it to just be a common cold, until the town doctor contacted the CDC about a highly infectious illness in the town with severely sudden onset of fatal symptoms. The Foundation swooped in and were given an interview afterwards between Dr. Quayle and Private Barnes of the responding MTF. Part of the MTF landed their helicopter in the town square and began to sweep through the town, finding it initially empty. They put on hazmat suits, as the chief medical officer told them it was only a precautionary measure to be better safe than sorry. They found a number of dead bodies with swollen necks from goiters. After breaking into homes, they did find some live subjects, but they found plenty of places trashed, with food all over the kitchens and paper covering the floors. They heard a big commotion coming from the library, and a few members of the MTF went to investigate. They found around 300 infected civilians inside the library, fighting each other over the books. Those that got their hands on the books were eating them by ripping out pages and shoving them in their mouths. The MTF was told that the infection doesn't affect behavior, making it especially confusing. The activity seemed to be centered around a big pile of books, with a large, infected man fighting off anyone who came near. The MTF began working to restrain and remove most of the infected individuals, but everything went wrong when one of the team told the mob that there were more books outside, causing a stampede. Barnes was left alone to deal with the remaining infected inside the library, corralling the rest outside until only the large man is left. Barnes managed to tranquilize the man, but sprained his wrist in the process. Afterwards, he found a young woman underneath the pile of books, who started screaming and attacking him after seeing the large man on the ground. Barnes didn't fight back after noticing that the girl was pregnant, despite him having a record of previously subduing pregnant women. He says that he couldn't help but wonder if it had been his wife or kid, despite not having a wife or kid.
What?
He admits that he wasn't thinking straight, and the girl managed to get his hood off. His teammate came in and had no choice but to treat him as an infected, as it only takes the slightest belief that you are infected to make you infected.
Oh,
Barnes
God.
gets taken along with the rest of the infected through quarantine, where he notices a peculiar birthmark on the girl's chest. He then noticed a man with the exact same mark on his chest, revealed to be the logo of the SCP Foundation. All of the infected people from the town had the same mark on their chests. Barnes compares the infection to being told that an animal can smell your fear, which only makes you more afraid. The virus slips in through those tiny background worries in a corner of your mind. He talks about one of the pregnant women that he had subdued on another mission, and says that he doesn't really remember her at all outside of brief flashes. The rest of the squad said that he had changed after that mission, seeming lonelier, and he was transferred to another MTF. He doesn't remember the woman because the Foundation wiped his memory of her after her death. It's revealed that the woman was Corporal Tanya Barnes.
Oh!
The virus, then, is obviously not typical, even considering that it spreads through thoughts, but it is, in fact, sentient.
Wait, so
It is some sort of entity that became associated with things starting with the letters VI, such as virus, tunnel vision, and vitiligo. It can adapt to thoughts and ideas carried by hosts, shown in the skin patterns resembling hospital gowns. When it first cropped up, it wasn't harmful, as it only resulted in a breakout of mass hysteria in Australia, but then it began killing off its hosts. The Foundation has taken to keeping infected alive and contained as long as possible to prevent it from spreading. And obviously, the entity has taken an interest in the Foundation by manifesting its logo on people's bodies.
So it could be. Oh my God! It could be. Dude. What about this? What if it's like responsible for the witch hunt and that? If it created the hysteria in Australia, right? And it didn't kill anyone, and it seems to be sentient because it seems to be reflective in some ways of the people's. I don't know if it's the people's perception or the people's interaction, position, history, but it seems to be sentient in its interaction with them to some degree. And the question is like, why? What is it that binds it? If we use the notion that it seeps in when you think you have it, even a slight thought of the disease make you have the disease. But what if it is also the thought about the disease that causes the symptoms and the responses? Does that make sense? Let's say you're like a really, really religious person and you believe that the devil has given you a sickness, right? So you don't think the sickness is like, you believe in the sickness, so the sickness gets a way in, right? But you don't believe it's gonna kill you. You believe it's trying to like, okay, let's say take over your body, resulting in hysteria, essentially. Which would explain why most people die horrifically, right? Because that's like the worst thing. Like that's like, if you consider getting a deadly disease, like what are you most afraid of? And it's like dying while puking your eyeballs out, essentially, right? It could also be that there's like an entity behind it that kind of controls everything. Of course, possible, very possible, and actually very intriguing idea as well.
It's unclear what exactly the entity's goals are, but it doesn't seem to be solely interested in spreading as far as possible. Okay, so I cheated a little bit with the mimetic nature of the last one, but otherwise I hope that this video gave you a proper dose of body horror. In a universe filled with scary stuff, diseases can still be pretty unsettling, as anomalous reflections of the horrors of the real world. In our universe, we can typically avoid diseases through precaution and cleanliness, but disease is still a long ways from becoming only a fictional horror.
Oh, I hated that picture. Oh, actually, no ending quote. I nearly said like roses are red, violets are blue. You think of a disease, you got it too. You know, it's a good video in itself. It's a good introduction to anomalous diseases. But honestly, dude, we have seen all of them except like 2 or 3. Like, we kind of know all of them. And those that were mentioned, like, it wasn't really that intriguing. I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was like, yeah, cool, I guess. Yeah, human firework, cool. But nothing like, ooh, what is this sauce? Like, nothing made me question my English, you know what I'm saying? Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this little introduction to anomalous diseases. I think we're going to say goodbye for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment some comments if you have some recommendations. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Actually, maybe. No, I'll see you guys in the next one for sure. Alright.